Welcome to my video woodworking plan for this queen size platform bed with storage underneath, shelves in the back, and even a hidden compartment behind this panel right here. This is not a general build video. If you're looking for that, I do have one which I will link in the video description below. This video is for those people who would like to create a bed just like this one or something very similar. It goes through all of the processes that I used, the materials, the sizes, the tools that are needed. All of those details are available and they're marked in specific sections in the video where you can skip ahead, pause the screen to see what those details are, and work alongside your own build to create something like this. This is the first one of these that I've done. Certainly I'm open to feedback. Please leave me a comment if I'm missing some details or I could do something better. I'll be breaking this video into two. This first one that you're watching now is for this bed. I'll do a separate one for the headboard. So I think that's enough of an introduction. I want to start by telling you a little bit more about the difficulty level that's going to be involved here, the tools that you will need, and the materials. Let's get started. This is the material that I'm going to be using for the build. And if you're going to be building alongside me, you have a lot of choices here. So we're going to take just a minute to talk about those choices. I am working from rough lumber. This is 4x4. It means it's 1 inch thick, but it also means that I'm going to have to be cutting it down and milling it down to its final dimensions. We're going to be using 1x material, so in the end, these need to be 3/4 inches thick. If you have the tools to do that, you can save a lot of money by buying wood this way. If you don't have the tools to do that, that's okay. I'm going to show in just a minute how I mill these down to the final form and give you the dimensions that you'll need, but you could buy these boards in 1x material, 3/4 inch thick, and be ready to work with them that way without having the fancier tools, the jointer and the planer that I'm going to be using to get these milled down. Now let's talk about what kind of wood you want to use. I'm using a hardwood here. I prefer that in furniture. It's much more durable. I picked this ash because it takes a stain well. There are a lot of other options as well. If you wanted another stain grade material, oak works great, red or white. White's going to be more expensive, but also gives you a lot more options in the colors that you can bring through. You can choose walnut if you wanted a dark color like that. All of these have cost implications. If you wanted also, you could switch to a softwood. In fact, I'm using a softwood here. These are the boards for the slats, and these are already milled up for me. And this is just common boards from Home Depot or Lowe's. So this is 1x4 material. You could do the whole thing in that. I don't recommend it though because of the wear that it can take. The other option you have is if you want to stain versus paint it. If you want to go with a painted material, you have a couple of options there. My preference is to use maple. I just think it takes a paint really well, and it's a little bit harder and easier to, it's a little bit harder in terms of how hard it is, but easier to work with than other paint grade materials such as poplar, but poplar is a bit cheaper. So I'm going to leave that choice to you, whether you want to get rough cut or you want to get it dimensional. Either way, we're going to start out with what the material you have, and I will show you in just a minute what dimensions you need for the boards before you start assembly. This video should contain all the information that you need to build the bed, including this material list. In addition to the video, I will make available a digital file for purchase at my Etsy store. This file will contain the materials list, templates, and other helpful references that could assist you in building this project. If you are working from rough cut lumber, parts F and G require glue ups, and you may want to dimension those down to 3/4 only at the end after the glue up is done. Parts H can be made from common boards that are 1x4s and 8 foot long, 5 of them. The rest of the material should be your hardwood choice. We're also going to need some plywood. The plywood makes up the base of the bed as well as the base structure of the drawers. In order to do that, you have some choices here as well. What I'm going to be going with is a 3/4 inch birch plywood. This is paint grade, and this is going to make up the structure underneath the bed that the drawers fit into. The drawers themselves, I am using for the sides and front and back a 1/2 inch Baltic birch. If you want to save some money, you can use regular plywood or maybe even some other hardwood if you find that available. However, I like the look of Baltic birch and I like its sturdiness for a drawer that has to be constructed with tight corners. For the bottom of the drawers, we need this 1/4 inch, and this is also Baltic birch. The drawers are fairly large, so I like the additional strength that Baltic gives over a regular birch plywood. We're going to need 2 sheets of 3/4 inch, 1 sheet of 1/2 inch, and 1 sheet of 1/4 inch. I will provide further details about the dimensions of these cuts and when to cut them as we go through the steps of the build. To start, we'll make the cabinet that makes up the base of the bed and also contains the drawers. I'll provide you with the full cut list here, but I'll also describe the steps that I took in order to make these cuts. Set your table saw fence to 11 1/4 inches and rip the long side of each of the 3/4 inch sheets. In my build, I used a track saw to cut the 2 blue dashed lines here. I start by cutting the back panel piece, and then I measure from the far end in order to cut all the lengthy pieces. If you don't have a track saw, you can also accomplish this with a regular skill saw. Just cut about a 1/2 inch wider. Once you've done that, the back panel piece can be ripped on a table saw to its final dimension. And later in the build, when you've taken the longer pieces to their final widths, you can cut them to length on a miter saw. Set your table saw fence to 2 inches from the blade, then cut 3 or 4 strips off for the feet. In the diagram plans I show 3 feet, but when building it I realized there was enough space that I could take a 4th. Once cut, set the feet pieces aside. Set your table saw fence to 10 inches from the blade and cut out the top rail piece. Set your table saw fence to 10 3/4 inches from the blade and use one of the boards cut in step 1-1 and rip 1 inch off of it. Setting the narrower board that you just cut on top of the wider one from step 1-1 that you didn't cut, mark 23 1/4 inches and cut the boards down into the final pieces for CE and CF. Our next few cuts will be 3/4 inch dados. Before putting in your dado blade, you should double check the thickness of your plywood. In my case, I actually subtract a 32nd of an inch off of the 3/4. Set your fence to 25 3/4 inches away from the inside of the blade and set the height of the blade to 1/4 of an inch. Cut dados from both ends of the boards that you have cut out for rails, both the wide rail and the combined rails, from both pieces of plywood. Leave your dado blade at 1/4 inch height, but move the fence in and place a protective guard so that you can cut rabbets. Pull out the 4 end pieces from the 8 pieces you just cut in the previous step. That's pieces C-E. And cut rabbets along the long edges on both sides of all 4 boards. Remove your dado cutting blade and replace it with your blade for cutting plywood. Set the fence to 4 inches away from the blade. Using your 2 remaining pieces that have combined rails CB and CC in them, cut 4 inch strips off until you have enough to make all of the bottom and top rails. Each piece that you're cutting should have those 2 dados inside of them already. If you did not use a track saw in the earlier step 1-2, once you've cut these out, take them over to the miter saw and cut them to their final length. It's time for assembly, and we're going to install the cabinets one at a time. I'll leave job site me to explain the process. Alright, it's time for assembly. The way I like to do this is I put the glue on the pieces, I set them up, and then I use staples to hold them in place. I'm going to keep going till I put every single piece in. The 2 with the rabbeted ends are at the ends of this cabinet, and the 2 that don't have the rabbeted ends right here behind me are going to be going down the middle. I'm doing it on its side. I'll do the pieces that face all the way down and work my way up. At the very end, I will put this piece right here into the middle slot, and that should help me square it up. It's not too difficult, but you have to keep going once you get started because you don't want that glue to set up before you've had a chance to square it. Notice how I rotate the board here on both sides to determine first where the glue needs to go. The Dado and Rabbets really help to align things so that you can be confident when you put the staples in. Once I have the rails in for the top and bottom that are going to ultimately face the front, I move on to the other railings. One top and one bottom piece need to also align with the back, and that is what is currently oriented up in this video. The design calls for one other bottom rail between the front and the back, but I used the leftover cutoff from the board to add an additional one to the bottom. This last step is crucial not to forget. When you place the back panel on, make sure you square up the entire piece before stapling it in. You can put one staple in, but then you need to square it up before adding the rest. Flip the cabinets over so they're upside down. This means the top wide rail should be on the bottom. If you were using staples that are longer than 1 1/4 inches, you may want to swap them at this point to 1 1/4 inch or 1 inch staple. Apply glue to the feet and then attach them with staples to each one of the bottom rails. Add screws for extra strength. Find open areas near your staples and countersink them with a countersink bit. Then fill those areas in with 1 1/4 inch to 2 inch construction screws. Once this is done, you can set the cabinets aside while we work on other portions of the bed. In the second part of our build, we'll turn our attention to the hardwood portion of the bed. I prefer doing this portion before the drawers just in case there are any adjustments that need to be made based on the size of the face frames. For this portion of the build, I am assuming that you cut all of the wood down to the dimensions specified in the material section at the beginning of the video, and glued up any sections necessary that needed the extra width. Assuming this is the case, there is no additional work to do to the apron until we get to sanding and finishing. Just remember during finishing that you have to get the two end edges because they will be visible. Platform pieces A and B are also nearly done. For the comfort of the people swinging their legs out of bed, we should put a roundover on the edges of the platform. Using a hand router, add a 3/8 or 1/2 inch roundover bit. Then round over one long side of both pieces A and pieces B. On the longer frame piece, pieces A, also extend that roundover to the shorter two edges. The next step is to cut out drawer poles for all 6 drawer faces. The simplest way to do this is with a template. The template I use to create my drawer faces is available at my Etsy store if you wish to take that option. I also provide the vector image file for the template in the digital supplement also available at my Etsy store. With it, you can create your own template. If neither one of those options appeal to you, here is a video version of that template image. You'll have to create something similar to it. Mine is about 4 inches wide and 1 inch tall. Identify which orientation you want for your drawer, back and front, top and bottom. Then flip the drawer face around so that the back is facing you and the top is away from you. Mark the center of the drawer face, which should be 1 foot and 3/16 of an inch from either side. Use a square to extend that line. Align the template to your center mark and align it with the top of the drawer face, and then use 2 5/8 inch hinge screws to attach the template to the back of the drawer face. Use either a router or a routing table with a flush trim bit to trim out the cutout part of the drawer, and your drawer face will be ready. Repeat these steps for all 6 drawer faces. Experience has taught me that it's best to do the sanding before assembling a face frame. We'll have to do another pass once it's all together, but now is the time to get the sanding done. I recommend sanding at 80, 120, 180, and 220 grits, and do this on all of the hardwood pieces. The face frames will be connected together using pocket screws. To prepare for this, we will have to drill pocket holes into the ends of the pieces C and the pieces E. Identify which side of these pieces you want to be the front and to be the back, and attach your jig so that you drill 2 pocket holes into each end of these pieces. The first step in assembling your face frames is to take the upper and lower rails and mark them 2 foot 1/2 inches from each end. This is where the inner stiles will go. Connect the outer stiles to the upper and lower rails first. Make sure to use a clamp to align the 2 pieces together before you put the screws in. Once you've created a rectangle with the outer frame, move on to the inner stiles at the markings that you've already made. Use the clamps again and screw in the pocket screws. With the face frame assembled, you may need to go back and give it a little bit more of a sanding just to even out any of the connections that you made. You have many choices when it comes to finish. I won't dictate which one of those choices you use. Simply follow the application instructions that come with the product that you've decided to use. In this video, you see me applying General Finishes Java gel-based stain. I follow this up with 2 coats of clear polyurethane in a gloss finish. If you watch my build video, you know that I did this on 2 different species of wood. Here you see the ash, and here you see an example of the maple. The dimensions of your drawer boxes relies heavily on 2 different things. The first is the opening size of your face frame, and the second is the type of drawer slides that you're going to use. The details that I'm going to be giving you in this build are for Bloom's Blue Motion undermount drawer slides. The instructions for the Blue Motion undermounted drawer slides indicate that the box size should be 5/8 of an inch less than the opening size in the face frame. If you're going to use any other type of drawer mount, make sure you understand their specifications and that you know how to adjust any of the sizes presented here. The construction of the drawer boxes starts by ripping the sides, fronts, and backs to their ultimate height, which is 7.5 inches. Set your table saw fence to 7.5 inches, then rip 3 strips from one side of the plywood, flip it over and rip another 3 from the other. You can cut the drawer sides 3 at a time by stacking 3 strips that you cut on the table saw together, aligning them at the end, and then cutting each at 1 foot 9 inches in length. This process should result in 12 drawer side pieces. The fronts and backs can be done in a similar process. Stack the other 3 boards that you ripped and cut them on the miter saw. This time cut them to 1 foot 11 3/8 inches. Make your adjustment here if you're using a different drawer slide. Use calipers to determine the true thickness of the material that you're working with for the drawer slides, fronts, and backs. Remove your plywood cutting blade and insert a dado cutting blade to the thickness you determined by the calipers. Set your blade to 1/4 inch high, then rabbet the short ends of the drawer side pieces. Double check to make sure you're not rabbeting the fronts and the backs, just the side pieces. Adjust your dado blade width so that it's no longer cutting the thickness of the material of the sides into the drawers. Set it instead to cut the thickness of the bottom of the drawer. This will most likely be 1/4 inch. Set your fence to be 1/2 of an inch away from the inside of the dado blade. Double check that the height of your blade is still 1/4 of an inch. Now cut all 24 drawer sides, fronts, and backs with 1/4 inch dado on one of the long edges of each board. When cutting the side pieces of the drawer, make sure that your dado is cut into the same side that the rabbets were cut. The drawer boxes can be assembled using only glue and staples. Attach the front piece to 2 of the sides by applying and spreading glue to the rabbeted edges of the sides, then staple the 2 together. With 3 of the sides assembled, you should be able to slide the drawer base into the dadoed slots. Then glue and staple the back piece into the sides. Leave the drawer base unglued to allow for wood movement. The next 3 steps are particular to Bloom undermounted drawer slides. If you choose to use a different drawer slide, please follow the manufacturer's recommendations. Using an oscillating tool, cut a 1.5 inch slot to accommodate the drawer slides on both sides of the back of the box. Add the left and right adjustable cabinet drawer slide mounts to the front of the drawer face using 1/2 inch hinge screws. On the back of the drawer, just above the slots that you cut out, mark a point 7/8 of an inch from the bottom and 7/8 of an inch from the sides. Use a piece of painter's tape to mark 3/8 inches up on a 1/4 inch drill bit. Then drill 3/8 inch deep holes into all the places you marked on the back of the cabinet faces. We will attach the face frames to the cabinets using pocket screws. Once the drawers and trim for the bed are in place, the pockets should be invisible. Use the pocket hole jig to create several pockets around the cabinet base. Here are my suggestions for pocket placement. Once all the pockets are in place, attach the face frame using clamps. The outside edges of the frame and the cabinet should align on all 4 sides. With the frame firmly held in place, go around to each of the pockets and attach the frame using the pocket screws. Use a ruler to mark the front positions of the drawer mounts. For Bloom undermount drawer slides, this should be 1/4 of an inch. Use scrap spacer boards to position the drawer mounts at the appropriate distance from the sidewall. Screw the mounts into the bottom of the frame, or attach them to the spacers and attach the spacers to the wall, if that's preferred. Repeat this process for all of the drawer slides. Test the fit with a drawer box and a face frame, making sure it's flush. Adjust and remount the brackets if necessary. The platform frame piece that runs parallel to the cabinet base is attached permanently. Position the frame piece so that the short end is flush with the side that faces the headboard. The platform frame should overhang the cabinet face by 1/4 of an inch. The edge over the apron should protrude from the cabinet by 1 inch. Clamp the frame piece in place, then use 1 1/4 inch cabinet screws to attach it permanently. The bed is too large in its fully assembled form to transport easily. For our next step, we're going to add these insert wood nuts. These connections are represented by the black lines in the diagram. They allow the bed to be assembled and disassembled in place and connect the cabinets to the apron, to the platform, and to the headboard. We'll be using wood insert nuts that take 1/4 inch machine screws. We'll begin by drilling the pass-through holes in the cabinets. Start with the cabinet faces that will attach to the apron. Using a 5/16 inch diameter drill bit, drill holes according to the dimensions shown in the diagram. These holes will be slightly oversized to allow for some wiggle room when installing the bed. Note that the measurements here are from the outsides of the cabinet and not the outsides of the face frame. Move to the other side of the cabinet, the one that attaches to the headboard. Drill 2 holes in each cabinet, according to the diagram. On the top of the base cabinet, mark and drill 2 additional holes for the platform near the headboard. The final 2 holes also go on the top of the cabinet and are for the platform near the apron. Note that the distance from the end of the cabinet on the apron side is 1 inch shorter than the distance on the headboard side. This is due to the fact that the platform on this end overhangs the apron and gives a 1/4 inch reveal. We need to drill holes for the inserts into both of the shorter platform pieces. Note the locations in the following diagrams. The dimensions are the same for the head and the foot of the bed, but be careful to note that the rounded over edge is the outside edge from which we need to measure. The wood inserts that I recommend in the materials list require using a 5/16 inch diameter drill bit. Mark the length of the insert up the shaft by using a piece of blue painter's tape. And be careful when drilling not to penetrate all the way through the wood. The threaded inserts are attached by screwing them in with a hex wrench. 8 wooden inserts are also attached to the back of the apron. Be sure to measure from the top of the apron. The board is symmetric, so it's up to you to pick which side is the top. I marked top with a pencil on the back hidden side on my apron. Attach the inserts the same way you did on the platform. The 10 slat pieces, marked as part H, are 4-foot boards cut down from 8-foot common boards. Cut each of the 5 8-foot boards on the miter saw. To install the nylon strap uniformly on the slats, mark 1 foot in from each edge on each slat. Use scrap 2x4s as a spacer and staple in the nylon strap into the boards. The ends can be cut with a utility knife, and a simple kitchen torch will keep them from fraying. Cut your rubber anti-slip tape into 1 foot 6-inch pieces. Peel off the backing and apply to the top middle of each one of the platform slats. If you watched my build video, then you know that I waited until the bed was assembled in its final location before attaching the drawer faces. The drawer faces can be attached before moving the bed. If you elect for this option, mark the location of each one of the drawers. Start 5 1-inch cabinet screws into the front face inside of the drawer. Use playing cards to separate the drawer face from the frame at the desired distance. Then, while holding the face in place, tighten down the screws that you started. Test the function of the drawers and you should be done. As one last bonus step, I did screw down the slats using cabinet screws, but it's completely optional. Whether you were watching this video just to see the details because you were interested in them, or whether you wanted to build alongside me, I appreciate the time you took to watch this video. Putting this video together was a pretty significant undertaking on my part, and I'd love to hear what you think about it. And if you do decide to make this a build of your own, you can provide some support for the effort that went into this by purchasing the digital supplement file that goes with it, or perhaps some of the templates. That's all for this video woodworking plan. If you're interested also in the details behind the headboard or building it yourself, I will link to that video as well. Enjoy making sawdust.